William Carey has a significant influence that continues through 200 years. The intentional life which he lived, I see it as a philosophy which translated into life, a reorientation of life under the lordship of Christ, which turned into strategy and structure. Rather than working off a very pragmatic, impulsive base of making decisions, he decided to submit himself to the Scriptures from the very, very beginning. And so the priority of Scriptures, as later seen in his translation, in his application, would be a major contribution that he makes to all our strategizing in the concepts and the application of missions today. I cannot think of a life which has lived more intentionally the commission of Jesus Christ. He almost created an entire industry that was simply in submission to the Scriptures. I would also like to suggest that his significance lies in the fact that he wanted to bring all of culture and life under the lordship of Jesus Christ, under the kingship of Christ.
In this final section of our study on the life of William Carey, we see some of the breakthroughs and victories he experienced after long years of struggle. For many years, Carey had protested the inhumane practice of sati, until finally it was made illegal. And then there was the slave trade. Before he died, he heard a word from England that William Wilberforce, the great evangelical leader of Parliament, had led in the abolition of the horrible slave trade. There was the founding of Serampore College and the sending out of missionaries from Serampore itself into all parts of the East. In all of these victories, William Carey was confirmed in his faithfulness. But despite all of the great victories and achievements of his life, William Carey remained humble. He continued to exhibit a Christ-like spirit in everything he did. He had a habit every year on his birthday of writing a letter to one of his children in which he would review his life and look back over the things that he had done in that year and examine his walk with God. One of those letters was written to his son Jabez on August the 17th, his birthday, in the year 1831. Carey was 70 years old. He said, "I am this day 70 years old, a monument of divine mercy and goodness. Though on a review of my life I find much, very much, for which I ought to be humbled in the dust. How little I have done for God." Here was a man who had translated the Scriptures into nearly 40 different languages and dialects of India and the East. He had founded Serampore College and many, many other schools. He had established many churches and congregations. He had worked to reform society of some of its most terrible, inhumane abuses. What a life filled with achievement and victory and accomplishment. But when looking back, he says, how little I have done for God. There was a great missionary from Scotland named Alexander Duff, who traveled all the way around the world just to visit with Carey shortly before he died. Carey had become world famous by that time. People were reading about him and talking about him in England and North America, all around the Christian world, and Alexander Duff traveled to India to meet Carey. They had a long interview, and when it was nearly over, Carey summoned Duff back to his deathbed. He said, "You have been talking about Dr. Carey, Dr. Carey, Dr. Carey. When I am gone, speak no more of Dr. Carey. Speak instead of Dr. Carey's Savior." That is how he lived. That is how he died. It was 1834, June the 9th, 5:30 a.m. at the crack of dawn. Carey died at Serampore in his 73rd year. Throughout his long life, he had taken great comfort in the hymns of Isaac Watts. And one of his last requests was that a simple couplet from one of Watts' hymns be inscribed on his simple stone slab. Nothing more. It can still be seen there today. Just these words: "A wretched, poor, and helpless worm, on thy kind arms I fall." One of the young men who witnessed Carey's burial was a young missionary from Scotland named John Leachman. And I think Carey would have approved of his description of the meaning of that event. "And now what shall we do? God has taken up our Elijah to heaven. But we must not be discouraged. The God of missions lives forever. His cause must go on. The gates of death, the removal of our most eminent friend, will not impede its progress nor prevent its success. Come, we have something more to do than mourn and be dispirited. With our departed leader, all is well. He has finished his course gloriously. But the work now descends on us. Oh, for a double portion of the divine Spirit." I believe that would be Carey's prayer for every Christian 200 years after his mission to India. For all of us who know Christ and love Him and believe in Him, that we would come to share something of the passion that God gave Carey for the sharing of the good news of salvation with everybody, everywhere. May God help us to take courage from the example of William Carey and so follow in his footsteps, that the glorious light of the gospel of Christ might shine as a candle in the dark. God bless you.